Story time about how I catfished all the popular boys in my grade and they found out about it. So a little background information. I was at a new school. I just started there probably like 4 months before this happened. And I was best friends with this one girl. We're going to call her Kate. And Kate had a crush on this guy. We're going to call him Alex. And he liked her back, but she wanted to see if he was loyal. Well, at least that's what it was supposed to be at first. But then he started to actually fall in love with this bitch. So then I started feeling bad and I told my friend that I just wanted to end it right there. And she was like, no, let's keep going. This is so funny. Mind you, this was the boy that she liked. So at that point, I was like, whatever. And then he asked to meet up at the mall. So then we took him on a whole goose chase around the whole mall. Like, we were like, oh, we're in this store. Never mind, we're in this one. And the only reason why we got away with it was because he thought he saw us in the one store. So then we broke up with him and we started talking to all the other popular boys. And on this fake account, we said that we went to a different school. Well, one of the kids at that school said that he never saw us there, like for part 2. Part 2 about how I catfished all the popular boys in my school and they found out about it. So like I said, the one kid said, oh, I never saw you at my school. So then I just blocked him and thankfully that situation got left alone. Well, then after that, like I said, we started talking to all the other popular boys. We're gonna call this catfish Ashley. Well, at that point, everybody knew who Ashley was. Like, I would literally be sitting in class and all the girls would be talking about how much they hate Ashley, how Ashley's such a hoe. Like, all the girls despised her. Sorry, her. And they kind of had a reason to, because we broke up so many relationships and everything. Well, the one night I'm having a sleepover with my friends. Well, Kate asked if she could come to the sleepover as if it wasn't obvious that she could come. Just a quick reminder, Kate was the one who I started the account with. So I was joking around with her and I was like, no, you can't come. So I wake up the next morning, right? And all the popular boys are blowing up my phone on my actual accounts, like for part 3. Part 3 about how I catfished all the popular boys in my school and they found out. So like I said, I wake up the next morning and thankfully it was a Sunday. And like I said, I woke up to text messages from all of Alex's friend group. And all these text messages were like, are you the one running the Ashley account? We saw screenshots of all the messages between you and Kate. So I texted Kate and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, how does everybody know? And she made some bullshit ass excuse saying that her brother took her phone and took pictures of all the conversations and sent them to everybody. Which obviously I knew that wasn't true. But after that I went into a whole depression because everybody just kept coming at me for this fake account. Whatever, it was literally me and her who created it. She was the one who wanted to make it to fucking catfish this guy that she liked. So I wasn't going to school for a few days and my guidance counselor literally had to come to my house. Pretty much drag me out of the fucking house and bring me to school. So I sat in the guidance counselor's office all day and then I had to move schools. Story time about how I found out that my mom was sleeping with my history teacher to get me better grades. So it was my junior year of high school, and everybody knows that your junior year is the most important year of high school. If you didn't, well, now you know. My brother was in his senior year of high school, and when he was a junior, he had the same teacher, so he knew how hard the class was. So he would stay up with me every night helping me to pass my history class. Well, the one day I'm at school and I'm taking a test, and I literally did not know anything on the test. And I studied the night before for literally 4 hours straight. So I decided to copy off the girl next to me. Well, a few days later, we get our test back. And I'm looking at mine, and I got a 97%. And then I look over to the girl next to me. She got a 33%. And then I started going through the tests. None of the essay questions looked like my handwriting. But I didn't say anything because I wanted that A. Well, the one night, I'm sitting down with my family having dinner, and I told them that I copied off the girl next to me, and how I got a 97% and she got a 33%, and my brother flips out like for part 2. Part 2 of my mom sleeping with my history teacher to get me better grades. So like I said, I told my parents that I got a 97, she got a 33, and I was telling them how the handwriting didn't even look like mine, and everything. And then my brother starts flipping out. In front of my dad, too. He goes, Mom, are you fucking serious? You couldn't let her try and do this on her own? And I was super confused. Like, I thought that maybe he was talking about my mom paid off the teacher. But then he said, yeah, Dad, if you didn't know, Mom's been fucking our history teacher to get us better grades. And then he goes, Mom, you're such a fucking whore. And my mom's sitting there not even fazed. She just took a drink of her wine and said, get the fuck upstairs now. Before my brother leaves the table, he goes, maybe you can fuck Dad's boss too. Maybe he'll get a raise. And then I realized what was happening. And it's around 6:30 p.m. So after that, a lot of stuff happened. My dad obviously wanted to get a divorce at that point. So my dad took my brother and I to our grandparents. And we stayed with them for like 2 weeks. But then everybody at school found out. And we got made fun of a lot. And then after that, we moved schools. Story time about the boy who pretended to like me to get closer to my best friend. A little background information. It was the summer before my freshman year of high school, and my best friend and I got bored of hanging out with the same people, so we got a membership to a new pool. And this one was closer to one of our rival schools, so a lot of people that we didn't know went there. Well, the one day while we're there, we meet this group of boys. And by the way, my friend is super pretty. Like, all the guys immediately gravitate towards her, and I'm kind of like the duff, aka designated ugly fat friend. Anyways, while she's over there talking to all the boys, I'm sitting down at one of the tables. And one of the boys from the group comes over to me and starts talking to me. And he was being super sweet. And then he's like, oh, I don't know why all of them are over there talking to her. Like, she's not even that pretty. He was like, to be honest, you're way better looking than her. Now listen, I know I might seem like a bad friend for this, but I never had that male validation before. So that kind of made me feel good. Well, fast forward, his best friend and my best friend start dating, like for part 2. Part 2 about how this guy used me to get with my best friend. Like I said, they started dating. The boy that I was talking to at the pool, we're gonna call him Luke. Well, Luke's best friend was dating my best friend. Fast forward 2 months, Luke's saying how he wants to date me and stuff like that, but it's not the right time. And every time that I would ask Luke to hang out, he would only hang out if my best friend was there. Red motherfucking flag alert, bitch. Anyways, I didn't see that red flag. So Luke and his best friend go to this party. And apparently I was told that there was this girl there that was really hot. And Luke was saying to his best friend, oh, you should hook up with her. She's totally into you. Your girlfriend won't find out because she doesn't even know any of the people at this party. So he hooks up with the girl there. Then Luke calls me and says, OMG, like he cheated on your best friend. So I immediately call my best friend to tell her. And because she likes to talk to Luke about all her problems, she calls him. So he goes over there to comfort her. I didn't hear anything from them till a week after. My best friend posted him on her story and goes, my new boo. Story time about my shitty ass ex-boyfriend. So a little background information. My ex and I have been dating for about 2 years. And throughout those 2 years, he was a dick. He would cheat on me, talk to other girls more than me, but of course I pretended that everything was perfect in my relationship. I would brag to all these people about how my relationship was so good, blah blah blah, and everything else. Because it's embarrassing whenever bitches can talk shit because your relationship is very toxic. Like, listen to this bullshit. The whole 2 years we were dating, I had over 10 girls DM me on Instagram saying that they screwed my boyfriend at his house. I never confronted him about it. I was just one of those girls that cared way too much about what everybody else thought. Okay, now fast forward. And it was a Friday at school, and Thanksgiving break was the following day. And him and I have this whole plan to spend the whole break together, because literally a week before that, he was on vacation in North Carolina for 2 whole weeks. Well, instead of going with him after school, I decided to go home, get an overnight bag like for part 2. Part 2 about my shitty ex-boyfriend. So like I said, the original plan was for us to go together to his house after school. But I was like, I'm going to be spending the whole week over there. I should probably pack some clothes and get a shower. So after school, he drove me to my house. And he said that his parents wanted to have dinner together, so he had to go back to his house. And he would pick me up later. So when I got to my house, I got ready and everything, blah, blah, blah. And by this time, it was like 8 o'clock. Well, I kept texting and calling him, asking him where he's at, if he's coming to get me still. Then I realized that none of my text messages were going through. So then I go to text him on Snap. And what do you know? I couldn't find him on there. And then I call him off my mom's phone. He answers the phone and hangs up right away. Well, we were supposed to have a little party at his house too, that all of my friends were going to. So I texted every single one of them. None of them answered the phone. And I remembered that my one friend had shared her location with me before. So I went and looked at her location and where was she at? My boyfriend's house. So while I sat at home crying that whole week, he was throwing parties and cheating on me with my friends. And when we went back to school, he acted like we were never in a relationship. Story time about how I was sexually harassed twice while working at Walmart. So a little background information. This all happened last year. So originally I was working in a warehouse, but whenever COVID hit, lost my job, I had to get a new job. So I applied at Walmart in the electronics section because they paid more money, period. And on my second day, I finally went and started working in electronics. So they had asked some of the employees to show me around. So while this one employee was showing me around, he took me to the back where the photos were. Well, whenever I got back there, this employee named Terry said, "Oh, she's mine." I just laughed and brushed it off because I felt super uncomfortable and awkward. And he knew I was underage because my name tag was yellow. But even after that, he still kept coming up to me, calling me weird names, just being a total creep. Like, he would keep coming up to me and get super close to me to the point where I could literally feel him fucking breathing on my face. So of course I told my manager about it. They said he's done this before, so I was like, why the fuck is he still here? So they moved me to garden. And while I was working in the gardening section, I met this guy named Jordan. Like for a part 2. Part 2 of how I was sexually harassed twice while working at Walmart. Something I forgot to mention in the first part, I reported Terry several times and they still did nothing about it. So like I said, then I met this kid Jordan, him and I started getting close, and work actually started to become fun. Well, finally, after a month, we decided that we were going to go out to lunch during work. So the day that we went out to lunch, he kept telling me that he needed to tell me something. But he was like beating around the bush the whole time. Like for some reason, he just couldn't get out what he wanted to tell me. But then he kept trying to change the subject like he wasn't the one who brought it up in the first place. I should have took that as a red flag before we went to lunch, but I didn't. So he keeps going on about it in the car, right? And then he's like, I'm not really 20, I'm 25 turning 26. So then for some reason after that, whenever he saw my mood change, this guy has the audacity to start touching my legs, fucking rubbing my inner thigh and shit. I kept telling him to stop. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? So then I told him I'm getting out of the car. And he says, I'm not gonna let you like for part 3. Part 3 of how I got sexually harassed twice while working at Walmart. So like I said, he wouldn't let me out of the car, but then we got back to work. And then he had the audacity to keep asking if I was okay when he literally just sexually harassed me in the car. So I went to the bathroom, literally had a whole fucking mental breakdown. I called my mom to come get me because I was not finna stay there. So the next time that I went back to work, I grabbed my stuff and I gave it to one of the workers to go and give to a manager and tell them that I was quitting. Well, one of the managers caught me walking out the back door and she was like, what's wrong? So I immediately broke down. I started telling her what was going on. And then a crowd of people came around us being nosy as fuck, listening to what I was saying. And she was like, you're not quitting. I'm going to take care of this. So she sent me home and she said that she would call me whenever it was taken care of. So 2 days goes past. I'm like, why the fuck hasn't she called? So then I call and I found out that she fired me. So I reported everything to Walmart ethic team and they just closed my case. They basically didn't do shit about it. Oh, and Jordan wasn't really a manager. He was a supervisor. Should I try to take this to court? Story time. My dad got my half-brother's girlfriend pregnant. A little background information. This all happened a few years ago. Anyways, my brother was fresh out of high school and he had been dating this girl named Serena for 2 years. And my dad, for some reason, hated her. At least that's what we thought. Well, my brother didn't have a license at the time, so every time that she came over, she needed somebody to drop her off at home. So my dad would always offer to drop her off at home, even though he literally hated her. And he could have just ordered her an Uber, which is what he did with all of my friends. Well, the one night her parents called and they were like, hey, like, is Serena still there? She hasn't came home yet. And my dad said that he was dropping her off. So I called my dad and he said that they ran out of gas on the side of the road. So that was just like one incident. Well, the next morning my mom goes to get in the car for work and she finds a thong in the car. So she brings it in the house and she asks me, hey, is this yours? Meanwhile, I had never seen them before. So then she goes and asks my half-brother and my dad's whose they are, like for part 2. Part 2 about how my dad got my half-brother's girlfriend pregnant. So like I said, my mom found that thong in the car. She came and asked me if it was mine. I said no. So then she asked my dad and my brother whose they were. So she asked my dad first. He said, I don't know whose they are. He said they probably just fell out of Serena's bag. And then she asked my brother. And my brother said, oh, those are Serena's. So after that, my brother came in my room. And he was like, do you think it's weird that the same underwear that Serena was wearing before she left ended up in the car? So I guess she had the underwear on literally before she fucking left the house. Dumb bitch alert. Anyway, so a few weeks later, Serena breaks up with my brother. Well, around the same time, my dad started staying after work really late, like every day of the week. But long story short, my mom went through his phone because she felt like something was going on, and she reads a conversation between my dad and Serena. Like, oh, I'm so sad that you couldn't come to the ultrasound. So then my mom and him divorced, and he's currently raising his child with Serena.